hello, good morning. Let's confirm that you can see my screen and you can hear my voice by typing hi in the comment section so that we can get this session started. So I would like to see some feedbacks in the comment section, please. This helps me to confirm that we are good to go. All right. Okay, so let's see what we have here in the comment section. Okay, 504 Jota 7 7083. Thank you. So I can see Mutambanika. All right, good morning to you. 529, good morning. Balays, all right, okay. 9587, good morning to you as well. 363 FX start, all right. Okay, Carrie, good morning, I see you. Thank you very much. Hey, Steamroller, good morning to you as well. All right, I will be taking this as a positive feedback that we are good to go this morning. In that regard, I'm welcoming you to another promising session on the X-Trend Speed. My name is Sheriff Daramola, and as usual, I will be taking you on a trading journey for the next 1 hour, where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us today. Well, we are also going to be reviewing all the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. We have about 5 to 6 pairs that we have been monitoring. So we're definitely going to be looking at how well those pairs are doing. In fact, we have some couple of profits in some of the pairs we had. And then some of these other pairs that have the US dollar relative are actually consolidating at this point in time. So we are going to be looking at all these pairs and what our expectations will be in that regard. And for those who are joining us for the first time, you're welcome on board and glad to have you around. I hope you stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on any of the ideas we shall be discussing during the live session, and at the same time you want to stay tuned in so that you can understand how this works and you will be able to take advantage of this privilege on your trading lifestyle. With that being said, here let's run through the economic calendar, as we have a couple of macroeconomic events that's everyone will be looking forward to for today. And in fact, we are going to be having we are going to be watching closely on the Bank of England, and I think that has already happened, and we've beginning to see some traction in that regard as the pound broke out of the 1.21 level, that very strong resistant level for this week. So we are going to be looking at that as well in anticipation of what will be closing for this week on that pair. So we only have macroeconomic event affecting the pound. So in that regard, we shall be diving right into the current structures in the market to see what is really going on in this market. So the first commodity we are going to be looking at this morning is the US oil. Okay, I see Steamroller's comment in the... Okay, what are you saying? How are we doing GBPUSD this week? Yes, we are. In fact, we have a position running at this point in time, and I hope you stay tuned in so that you can be part of that session. Okay, is it May? Okay, Mosey 22. Okay, your good morning to you too, Francisco. Good morning. All right, okay. So let's see how this runs out. So the first commodity we are going to be looking at this morning is the US oil. And what do we have here on the US oil? So since the beginning of this week, we have been on a bullish momentum here. We have been quite profitable on the US oil. We started the week at the breakout of the $74.20 level, and since then price action has been finding higher highs and higher lows in that regard. And as a result of this, we had a couple of positions running since the beginning of the week. We had added another position at the breakout of the $75 level. Then we also added another one at the breakout retest of the $75.50 level, and then we had a final one on Tuesday evening at the breakout of the $76.20 level, and all those 3-4 positions hit our TP target here right here during Wednesday's morning trading session, and we were able to close those positions. The first one closed at about 400, the second one about 380, then the third one here about 180 pips. So we are quite profitable on the US oil for this week so far. And during the live session yesterday, this is where we were during the live session, and we were able to identify a structure which we said we shall be using to guide trading activity for the New York session yesterday, and that level is the $78 area. And remember, that is where the TP target for the previous positions were, and I told you that we shall be looking out for trading opportunities if price action breaks out retest of that structure to send price climbing to the upside. And in fact, this is what we saw here, though we had some couple of selling pressure happen during the New York session yesterday, where I said if it so happens that price action breaks down the $78 level, selling pressure below the structure on our lower time frame will be triggering a sell position, and I told you how much we must be careful in that regard, as it's more or less a counter trend opportunity. Though we had some breakdown of the structure here during the New York session yesterday, if we scale down to our lower time frame, we saw some selling pressure. If you are taking advantage of that move to the downside, I hope you moved your stop loss accordingly to lock in some profit, as price action would have taken you out of that position. And since we already have a buy stop order right above the $78 level to take advantage of this position, we had a position triggered above that structure. And if you had been part of this trading journey, kudos to you at this point, as price action is currently running with about 75 pips in our direction. So for everyone who have taken advantage of this opportunity, well done to you guys. And the next thing we want to be doing right now is to lock in some profit so that we don't get caught up in any sudden position that will take us out of this current one that we are in right now. So the most appropriate area I will be suggesting at this point is somewhere right below the $78.350 level, which is right below the previous structure that we have here. And we hope that price action, we hope that this room is enough for price action to breed before another potential trend continuation to the upside happens. So with that being said here, what is going to be our plans for today? Do we intend to continue to look forward to buying opportunity on the US oil, or should we be anticipating some sell-off in this market as the week gradually comes to an end? In this regard, we shall be scaling up into the daily time frame, where we shall be having an holistic view of what is really going on in this market, after which we are going to be coming right back down to our 1 hour time frame to decide what our next line of action will be. So scaling up into the daily time frame, what do we have here? And for the sake of those who are not part of this live session at the beginning of the week, we shall be looking at what has been happening here in the last 6 to 7 months, so that you can also have a better perspective into how we come about with the decision we have been making throughout this week. So the first thing we observed on the US oil daily time frame chart is that price action has been very bearish, at least since the month of June last year. We saw how price had continued to find lower heights, and as a result of this lower high here, we were able to connect the series to give us that bearish trend line, which, as you can see, price action had continued to respect that structure. However, something interesting happened later on, and that was in the month of September stroke this present moment, as we saw how the $75 level, we saw some buy pressure somewhere around here during in the last 3 to 4 months. Now we have been witnessing some buy pressure within the $75.50 level and the $70 area to signal that there is a tendency that buyers are very strong around this area, hereby negating the selling pressure and at the same time trying to transition into a reversal pattern that will push price to the upside. And we saw some traces of this bullish momentum here 3-4 weeks ago around the structure here, after price action finally broke out of that bearish trend line to signal a potential for buying opportunity. And in fact, prior to the breakout of that structure, remember vividly that we had this reversal pattern identified in the form of a double bottom structure, and we were actually looking out for a breakout of that neckline, which we situated at the $80 level. In fact, price action broke out of both the neckline area at the $80 level and at the same time broke out of that bearish trend line to signal a possible bullish momentum and a confirmation that that reversal pattern is valid. But something interesting happened afterwards, as we saw that things did not go as expected. As soon as price got into the $82.50 level, we begin to see selling pressure rejecting every attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure. And this led into a huge consolidation phase, which lasted about 2 weeks on the USOil here. As you can see here, since on the 12th of January till the 31st of January, we saw a huge consolidation phase between the $82.50 level and the $78 area to emphasize the indecision in that market. And we all know that participants in the market were actually anticipating the OPEC Plus meeting coming up, which came up last week, Tuesday, and that led to the breakdown of the $78 area. We saw the breakdown retest of that structure, pushing price right back down into a strong demand zone, which we actually identified at the beginning of the week, and that was the $73.50 level. And if you look into the past here, you can see how that level has also been a major determinant for buy pressure in this market. So this has lasted about 2 months now, and we anticipated a possible buying momentum right around this area at the beginning of the week, and we were lucky enough to take advantage of that move as price action moved significantly well in our favor. It moved about about 500 pips in our direction, and during the live session yesterday we identified the fact that price action was currently trading around the $78 level, and we were looking forward to see how price action will react to that structure to decide what our next line of action will be. And if we zoom in closely and look at how important the $78 level is based on this current structure, you would realize that the $78 level at one point in time being a support level which lasted about 3 weeks here. As you can see, the support level of this channel that we identified earlier. And with a breakdown of that structure which happened last week, from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure, there is a likelihood that price will come back, do a retest of that structure to incite another wave of bearish momentum. So because of this possibility that could happen here, we decided to pause on this perspective and see how price action will react to this level. So if we definitely have seen a trend continuation pattern around this area, we'll definitely be ready to buy or add more position to our existing trade. And if it so happens that we start seeing multiple rejection of the $78 level in such a way that price action transitions into a reversal pattern on our lower time frame, we shall definitely be getting ready to join a decline to the downside. Now, in this regard, you will notice that price action is still trading right around that $78 level. So we really have not seen a bullish traction, a significant bullish traction taking us out of that structure. And this is more or less a sign that sellers are still very, very strong in this area. So we really need to see a beautiful signal that will break out of that structure to further give us a good confirmation that buyers are likely coming in around this area. So with this information we have gathered here on the daily time frame, we shall be zooming right into the area between the $78.70 level and the $78 area here on our lower time frame to decide what our next line of action will be. So in that regard, we shall be scaling right down to the 1 hour time frame. So we shall be looking at the area between the $78 level and the $78.70 area, where we said we want to see what structures is evolving around that area, and then use the technical technical parameters that we can identify here to decide what our next line of action will be today. Now remember, we are already in a buy position here. We took advantage of this one at the breakout retest of the $78 level, and currently we are in profit with about 50 pips thereabout. And I told those who are taking advantage of this opportunity to move your stop loss to protect and secure your position right below the $78.40 level. So now with the situation we have here, remember we have a $78.60 level here, which has been a strong selling niche for some time. We saw the breakdown of the structure here on the first day of this month, and since the beginning of this month, price is yet to break out of that structure. So we really need to see some breakout of that structure to give us a bullish signal that really buyers are in this market to stay. Then in addition to the $78.60 level, I was able to connect the series of higher lows here, that is in the last 48 hours. As you can see, price had consistently found higher lows, and as a result of that, we have this bullish trend line. So as we head into the New York session today, we have two key structures we want to be using to guide trading activity. The first one is this bullish trend line here, which I've just highlighted, and the second one is the $78 area, which has been a strong selling niche at least in the last 48 hours. So we want to see a breakout retest of the $78 level to give us a signal that we want to be buying the US oil at this point. And in fact, I have a buy position triggered already at this point, with a profit running with about, I think, 10 pips, 12 pips thereabout at this present point. And if you're already in this position, well done to you guys for being on standby to catch this move. And if you are not yet in this trade, well, I think it is most appropriate you could join this buy position at this point with your stop loss sitting somewhere around the $78 level. Now, as we head into the new week, we continue to use this bullish trend line as our guide. As long as price remains above that structure, we want to be comfortable in our buy position. However, if price action breaks down that trend line, we might likely see a situation where price comes back to do a retest of this trend line. Remember, we have a trend line here which shares a confluence with the $78 level to incite another wave of bullish momentum. So that is why I said we should be having our stop loss somewhere right below the $78 level, so it can capture that risk if price action falls as far as that level before another wave of bullish momentum happens here. So let's see how price action will play out from this current structure going forward. So above the $78.60 level seems to be most appropriate for us to be in a buy position at this point. Then another thing I would like us to show you here, remember we identified the $78.70 level, which also was a key structure we identified on the daily time frame. And as you can see here, we have been witnessing some selling pressure around this area. So that area can be called the $78.90 based on what we have here on the 1 hour time frame. So we have the $78.90 level. So if price action breaks out of that structure, remember we can see here that sellers have been rejecting bullish attempt from this level. So if it so happens that price action breaks out of that structure, it could be another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade here. And if the selling pressure here continues, it could lead to the breakdown of both the bullish trend line and the $78 level to bring price to drop price to the downside. So let's keep all this perspective in view while we continue to monitor price action in that regard. So that is my view here on the US oil. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section, and I'm willing to be of help in that regard. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the charts and see if there are any comments before I move on to the next option. Okay, good morning 603. Strong Thing, good morning to you. Smushy, good morning. 1121, good morning. All right, Muzi Tutu, I see you again. 603, good morning once again. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume we're on the same page here, so I will be moving on to the next option. So the next option we are going to be looking at is the US Tech, and in fact the US Tech was also a very profitable trade for us yesterday. And if we take a look at what has been happening here since the beginning of the week, though we had a little choppy situation between the 12,550 and the 12,500 area, which lasted about 48 to 72 hours before we started seeing this bullish momentum. We had a sell position below the 12,050 level after seeing that breakdown retest of that structure, but the buy pressure we witnessed here for about 48 hours on Tuesday was a beautiful sign for us to anticipate a bullish momentum. And what we agreed here during the live session on Tuesday is that we are going to be buying the US Tech above the 12,550, breaking out of the resistance points which we identified at the beginning of the week. And this is exactly what has happened here. Price action broke out of the 12,550 level, moved about 220 pips in our direction before we saw price caught within this channel between the 12,770 level and the 12,700. And during the live session yesterday, we laid much emphasis on this current structure here, where we said a breakout of the channel or breakdown of the channel will be giving us a signal of where price action will be going for the New York session yesterday. And in fact, we saw the breakdown of the 12,700 level here, which came with a couple of rejection of that level to give us further confirmation that price will be going to the downside there. So for those who are taking advantage of the breakdown of that channel, well done to you guys, as you will had made over let's see, plus 200 pips approximately in profit on that one, as price action eats the support level up for the week at the 12,500 level. And since the rejection of the 12,500, what have we noticed here? We saw that price resumed again within the channel between the 12,550 and the 12,500. Remember, at the beginning of the week too, we had that situation here where price was caught within that range. The same thing happened during the later part of the New York session yesterday, as price was caught within that channel, and I hope you anticipated either a breakout or breakdown of the channel to join that momentum. And in fact, we had the breakout of the 12,550 this morning, giving us another buy position on this one. And for those who are taking advantage of this opportunity, well done to you guys for being on standby to have caught that move at this point. So if you have a buy position running at this particular point in time, I will be advising you to move your stop loss accordingly. Somewhere around the $12,600 level seems most appropriate at this point, as we continue to monitor price action based on this current structure. Now, as we head into the New York session today, what is our plan? Will this bullish momentum continue to the upside, or are we going to be having a situation where this is more or less a retracement of the impulse leg that we witnessed yesterday, and that might likely incite another wave of bearish momentum to the downside? So these are the things we would like to know here, and in order to do this, we want to be scaling up into the daily time frame. Let's have an holistic view of what is really going on at this point in time, after which we shall be coming back into the 1 hour time frame to make our decision for today. So going up into the daily time frame at this point, what do we have here? And for the sake of those who are not part of our live session prior to this current session, let's quickly run through what we saw on the daily time frame from a long-term perspective, after which I will be zooming into the current structure. So since the beginning of last year's trading session, we saw how the US Tech has been on a bearish momentum, and as a result of this, we connected a series of lower highs here, which emphasized the strength of the sellers throughout the course of last year. And one thing interesting happened later on, I think the mid of last year. We saw that as soon as price got into the $11,000 zone here, we saw multiple rejection from that area by the buyers, negating all attempts by the sellers to break down that structure to the downside. And in fact, this rejection of the $11,000 level had led to the final breakout of that trend line, giving us a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to hold selling pressure. And as you can see here, since the breakout of the trend line, a level which shares a confluence with 11,700, we saw our price had continued to find higher highs and higher lows. However, in the last couple of weeks here, we saw our price has tested the 12,900, and as soon as price got into that level, we have been witnessing selling pressure, negating all attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure. And one thing about that structure is the fact that it has been a major determinant of price action here in the last 9 to 10 months. If we look at what happened here in the month of March, we saw how that level was holding by pressure at one point in time. Let me zoom in so that you can see what I'm talking about here. Then we saw attempt by the buyers again in the month of April, but this was so weak that sellers took over the market, break down the 12,900, and then we saw a retest of structure to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. Though there was a breakout of the 12,900 here in the month of August, but this didn't last long as price action broke down again, retest of structure, and since then price has been trading below the 12,900 area to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. So now that price has come back into that strong selling niche here in this market, what is going to be our plans? And in fact, in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days now, we have been witnessing rejection of this current structure, hereby transitioning into something that looks more like a consolidation phase where price action has been caught within the $12,800 level and the 12,400 area. So with a consolidation phase like this, you all know what we are going to be looking forward to. We need to be very, very patient at this point in time if we are going to be looking at this from a long-term perspective. That is, if you are a positional trader, you are a trader who trades for a long term, well, at this kind of situation here, you want to be very, very patient, probably have your buy stop somewhere right above the resistance point here, looking forward to a breakout retest of that structure to make this channel become a trend continuation pattern. So a breakout of this structure is definitely going to be a beautiful signal that buyers have come to stay, taking out all the sell position there, getting some liquidity to give buy pressure around this area to push price further to the upside. However, if the contrary happens here, where price action breaks down to 12,400 to the downside, this might likely incite profit-taking activities. Remember, from a technical standpoint, whenever we have an impulsive move like this, considering what has been happening on this chart since the beginning of the year, those who are taking advantage of this opportunity here will at one point in time want to be doing some profit-taking activities. And if we are going to be seeing profit-taking activity, it's going to be reflecting on the chart in the form of a retracement phase where we shall be anticipating another move to the upside. So if it so happens that we have a breakdown of the $12,400 level here, this might likely incite a sell-off in this market with the hopes that price will come and retest either the 11,700 or the 12,100, 11,700, or even go as far as retesting that bearish trend line that was broken during the last couple of weeks now. So these are the scenarios we shall be looking forward to, and with this current structure we have here on the daily time frame, you would agree that we are at a critical point in time as price action continue to trade within a range between the 12,800 and the 12,400. So let's scale back down into the lower time frame and see if price action is tending towards breaking down to 12,400 or is tending towards breaking out of the 12,800 to incite a bullish or bearish momentum. So in that regard, we shall be scaling back down into the 1 hour time frame. So let's see what is really going on here, and then use whatever structure we have there to decide what our next line of action will be. So right back now, we are on the 1 hour time frame, and remember we have the buy position running, and I told you, for those who are in this buy position, I've told you to move your stop loss accordingly to lock in some profit while we look out for more opportunities to trade this pair. Now remember we have a channel here between the 12,700 and the 12,770 level, so we want to see how far this is going to go, though we have a TP target already around the 12,770, which is the resistance point of this channel. So if price breaks out of this channel, breaking out of the 12,800, this will be a sign that buyers might likely be coming in at this point. But if price comes back into this channel and we start witnessing selling pressure around that area, then we might likely be getting ready to see some selling momentum that might lead to the final breakdown of that 12,400 level, which we identified on the daily time frame around this area. So as long as price remain above the 12,400, I'm of the opinion that bullish momentum is still very, very possible in this market. So going into the New York session today, and for those who had missed out on this breakout of the 12,550, at this point I will advise you to remain patient here and see if the market will be presenting us with another opportunity at the retest of the 12,550 buy pressure on our lower time frame. Then we could actually join another wave of bullish momentum at this point. And if price comes into the $12,700 level here and the 12,770, we want to see what is going to transpire around that area to decide if we want to be selling. So like I've said earlier, if selling pressure resume again just like it has done here on Tuesday and Wednesday, we might be getting ready for another wave of bearish momentum. So let's keep this in mind. So buying the US tech here, if you are not yet in this position right now, you can either wait for price action to come back and do a retest of the 12,550 to join the rally to the upside, or look forward to a breakout of this channel between the 12,770 and 12,700 to join, and if you're already in this trade, to add more position to the existing trade. So these are my views here on the US tech. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and ensure you screenshot my screen so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about to make your individual decision. All right, so I'll be moving on to the next option, which is the let's see, which is the what do we have next? Okay, we have the GBPUSD next. Be rest assured I will be checking the comment section from time to time to see if there are any questions for me. So the next up here we are going to be looking at this morning is the GBPUSD, and we already have a buy position running on the GBPUSD as price action have finally broken out of that 1.2100 level for the first time in this week. And so it's a very important structure, you know, the 1.2100 level. I will be showing you how important that structure is on the daily time frame in a moment, but let's quickly run through what has been happening on the GBPUSD since the beginning of this week. So at the beginning of the week here, the first thing we observed was the fact that price was caught within a consolidation phase, and that was between the 1.20650, which was initially serving as our resistance point for the week, and then the 1.20300 level, which was serving as the support level for the week. And you know, whenever we have this kind of setup, we want to be looking forward to a breakout or breakdown of that channel to give us a signal of where price action will be going. So at the beginning of the week, we actually sold the GBPUSD initially, hoping that price will continue to trade to the downside after citing the breakdown retest of the structure. So we sold the first time here, we sold the second time here, and price action moved about 75 pips in our favor before we started witnessing this buy pressure taking us out of all the sell position with some small profit. And one thing we anticipated here on Tuesday, remember on our Tuesday's live session here, we were anticipating a breakout of the 1.20400 level to give us a opportunity to buy the GBPUSD. And because of this, we had the buy position triggered at the breakout. In fact, the market gave us quite a lot of time to join this bullish momentum. As you can see, we had a lot of buying pressure around that area, which lasted about 7 to 8 hours before another bullish engulfing candle took over this market. And as soon as price moved in our favor, remember we moved our stop loss accordingly to lock in some profit here. And during the live session yesterday, we were around the 1.2100 level as price action continued to trade around that area. And I told you during the live session yesterday that we should move our stop loss accordingly, lock in some profit on all the buy position we had there, and then we shall be using this trend line here as a yardstick for trading opportunity. And one thing I stated here yesterday is that if price action continues to remain above this trend line and the 1.2100 level, that is breaking out of that structure, we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. But if at any point in time price breaks down that trend line, we want to be selling. And in fact, we had a sell position triggered as soon as price broke down, retest that structure here. Then as soon as price got into the 1.20650 level, we begin to see buy pressure rejecting every attempt by the sellers to break further to the downside. And this was a beautiful signal that sellers might no longer have a say in this market at this point. And this actually led to the final breakout of the 1.2100 level, a level where I said we should be adding more position if price action breaks out of that structure. And this is what we have here. Price action has broken out of the 1.2100 level, and in fact it has been moving over 45 pips in our direction since then. And for those who have been part of this position right now, well done to you guys for being on standby to catch this move. And the next thing you want to be doing right now is to move your stop loss to secure this current position that we are in right now. And to lock in some profit here, I will be suggesting that around the 1.21100 level. It's not quite far away from our entry point right now. Let's see how far this move is going to go. Now, if we take talking about the 1.21 level and how important that structure is, let's scale up into the daily time frame so that you can see what I'm talking about regarding that structure. Now, on the daily time frame here, this is what we identified on the daily time frame at the beginning of the week. We saw that since in the last 4 months, price action has been bullish, and we have had higher lows. And when we connect the higher lows here, this is what we were able to find. We can see that price has been on a bullish momentum here, as we have a bullish trend line to confirm this structure. Now, we also laid much emphasis on the 1.24500 level. Remember how that level has been a strong selling niche for the past 7 months, and we saw that in the last 2 to 3 weeks here, we saw selling pressure around that area. Then we anticipated the breakdown of that bullish trend line, which actually happened during the course of last week's trading session. So that was the first time price action will ever break down that bullish trend line in the last 4 months. And this is a very beautiful signal that sellers might likely be coming in after considering how this level has been a strong selling niche, and it has finally led to the breakdown of that bullish trend line for the first time in 4 to 5 months now. Now, with the breakdown of a structure, we saw that as soon as price broke down that bullish trend line, we saw that price dropped into the 1.200 level. That was the level I was trying to show you on the 1 hour time frame. And look at what that level how that level has been in the last 2-3 months now. It has been a strong buying niche in this market. As you see, every attempt by the buyers to break down by the sellers to break down that structure has been negated by the buyers. And you know, from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a trend line or a structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of that structure. And it appears, since we have been witnessing some buy pressure since the beginning of this week, and I want to be seeing this as a retracement of that previous impulse leg that we had last week, which might bring price back into the structure. It could be the 1.22500 level or the bullish trend line here in anticipation of another wave of bearish momentum. So how far will this retracement phase go is another question we want to be asking, and the only way we can project the end of this retracement is by using our Fibonacci retracement tool. And if we take this into consideration, that is the previous impulse leg, run our Fibonacci retracement tool through that impulse leg here, and we should be aiming at our golden zone, which will be falling right within the 78.6% and the 50% of the previous impulse leg. So at this point in time, if you are in the buy position, you want your TP target to be within the zone at this point. So we have a TP target within this area, TP target for buyers. And that same area will also be serving as a sell window for a possible trend continuation to the downside. So we shall name it a potential sell window. Here we are now. I'll place this right inside the box. So we have something like this. Give this a green color. Then as usual, we have our yellow. Okay. I think this is too big, right? Okay, I think it's okay like this. So look at what we have here right now, and one interesting thing about this zone is that it falls exactly within that psychological level at the 1.22500 level, which was broken during the course of last week trading session. You can see how that level also had been a major determinant of price action, at least since December last year. The level has some strength for selling power, we can see, and it was more evident last week when we saw the breakdown. We saw the retest, we saw selling pressure from that area. So it's likely that price will come into the structure. So if you have a buy position, you can have your TP target right between the 1.21800 level and the maximum point of the 1.2300 area. So this is an area where we want to be looking out for reversal pattern. It will come in the form of a double top structure, selling pressure on our lower time frame. Then we could actually join the trend continuation if a reversal pattern is sighted within this current zone. So this is what we have here right now. So we are going to scale back down to our lower time frame, and let's see. A steamroller is asking me a question here, saying what happened. I don't think I understand. Is that question for me? Okay. All right, please clarify that if it's for me, please. So we are expecting price to come within the zone. So like I said earlier, if you have a buy position currently, kindly move your TP target somewhere between the 1.21800 and the 1.2300 level. So now for those who had missed out on the buy position that we had this morning, are we going to be having a second chance to join this bullish momentum? That's another question we want to be asking ourselves. So let's scale back down to the lower time frame. Let's see if we can be part of this move to the upside, and if we are not going to be part of it, then we just wait at this bust stop here, looking out for selling pressure to join the trend continuation to the downside. So let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame. Let's see if the market can give us, or if we can see some structures we can use to guide a possible opportunity to join the rally to the upside. So I will first of all scale down to the 4 hours time frame, and if you look at the 4 hours time frame here, this is what we have here on the 4 hours time frame, and this is the 1.22500 level, a level that's a zone area where I said we should be having our TP target between the 1.22, is it 2218 area, anywhere around this area is most appropriate. Now look at what we have here. Since on the 17th of this month, that 1.22500 level, like we said, has been a strong demand zone, as you can see here. Then we saw the breakdown retest of the 1.22500 level here on the first day of this month, and it's a beautiful confluence with that 1.22500. And we also have a trend line which has been guiding this. We can see buying attempt around this trend line has also been happening here, and if we extend that trend line a little further into the future here, this is what we are going to be seeing. And if we zoom into this current structure, there are two things we can use to guide our trading activity for today. That is, for those who had missed out on this buy opportunity, most importantly, you could wait for price action to come back down to do a retest of the 1.2100 level to join a trend continuation to the upside. That is one scenario we want to be looking forward to if that is going to happen, but I doubt if that is going to happen at this point, considering that engulfing candle that took price out of that structure. Now, another area we can look out for buying opportunity here is if price action transition into a trend continuation pattern around this trend line, and then a breakout retest of that structure happens, then you might want to be adding position there. Now, to make identification of a position of an opportunity very visible around this area, I would like to draw a structure out there so that we can use it as a guide for identification of trading opportunity around this area. So if we go to as far back as the second week of the month of January, we can see we have a structure around this area, which I will be giving a purple color to differentiate it from the previous structure, and that falls within the, in fact, it falls within a very strong psychological level, which is the 1.21500 level. So for the sake of this, let's label 1.21500 level, very strong psychological level there, and then we should place this at the top right hand side of the screen. So here we go. So you can see how that level shares a beautiful confluence with that trend line that I just identified now. So if it so happens that price action breaks out of the structure on our lower time frame, and there is a likelihood that we could have a trend continuation pattern here, it could be a bullish rectangular pattern, breakout retest on our lower time frame, then we want to be joining that trend continuation to the upside. So to make things easier here, let's scale back down to the lower time frame and let's focus and zoom into what is happening around the 1.21500 level. So I'll bring this in close so that we can see things more clearly around here. So going into the New York session today, we want to see how price action is going to be reacting to both the trend line and the 1.21500 to decide if we are going to be adding more position to our existing trade. So to get things more clearly here, let's scale down to the 15 minutes. Okay, so we have the 15 minutes time frame here, and let's identify a structure around this area. So prior to this candle that is running right now, the last hour saw a situation where we have been witnessing some selling pressure around that area, which is a very beautiful sign that there is a likelihood that sellers might come in from this point, doing a retracement to retest the structure that was broken, which I said might likely give us an opportunity to add more position to this trade. But if that does not happen and this candle closed in the form of an engulfing candle, this will be a beautiful sign for us to join a rally from this structure, from above this level. And if so possible it happens that price action comes back to do a retest of the 1.21500, we'll definitely be adding more position to our existing trade. So these are my views here on the GBPUSD, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section. And before I go into the next pair, I'll quickly read through the chat and see if there are any questions for me before I move on. Okay, what happened? I dropped out. Sure, if it was just me. Anyone else? If it breaks out of 1.2, where would next to be? Stimula is asking if it breaks out of 1.22500, where will next to be? I didn't get that phrase. I would appreciate if you can rephrase that. 1.22500 is far away from where we are right now. Okay, 1.22500 is there. So if it breaks out of 1.22500, what should we do? We're definitely going to be looking forward to buying opportunities. But if it breaks out of 1.22500, I would rather want to see price breakout, then do some retest, then I look out for buying pressure above that level, and taking into consideration that this level has been a strong demand zone in the past. So I would like to see price do a retest of that structure to give me that leverage to join that rally to the upside, because even if price breaks out of the 1.22500 here, it could turn out to be a false breakout. Remember, this level has a tendency of selling pressure, and in fact that level also was broken to the downside here in the month, on the first day of this month. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure, there is a likelihood that price will come back, do a retest of that structure to the downside. So if we are looking at it from this current moment right now, there is a likelihood that selling pressure will come in if price action comes there. So if a breakout of that level happens, it could turn out to be a false breakout, and that might lead to price dropping back down to the downside before that bearish momentum comes in. So that is why I said if price action breaks out of that level, then it will be appropriate that we hold on a second, wait for some buy pressure to transition here before we can now be thinking of buying the GBPUSD at that level. So this is my view. I hope I answered your question, Steamroller. Kindly confirm this. All right, so I will be moving on to the next pair. I have less than 7 minutes to cover 2 more pairs today, so I will be running through the XAUUSD and the USDJPY within this time frame. So the next pair we are looking at today is the XAUUSD, and on the XAUUSD, it's quite obvious that we have been in a choppy situation here since the beginning of the week, as price action has been caught within this channel. I was able to identify with that pink line. So we have a resistance level for the channel right within this area, and we have a support level for this channel within this area. But one thing about the structure is that price action is tending towards the resistance point of this channel. You can see price is unable to touch the support level of the channel, at least in the last 24 hours, and that's more or less a sign that buyers are likely strong at this point. And I shared this on my public platform this morning. Though we had some selling momentum here, we took advantage of some sell position which we projected during the live session yesterday. But one thing about the sell position here was that as soon as price got into the 1875 level, we saw some buy pressure around that area, negating all attempt from the sellers to push price further to the downside. And the fact that price is unable to touch the support level of this ascendant channel here is more or less a sign that buyers are very strong at this point. So like I said, I shared on my public platform this morning that we should be looking out for buying opportunity above the 1880 level, and this is exactly what happened here. And price action broke out, did some couple of retest of the 1880 to push price to the upside. And if you are part of this position, well done to you guys for being on standby to catch this move, as you will currently be running with at least 600 pips in profit at this point. Now, considering the volatility of the XAUUSD, I'm not counting on the 600 pips at this particular point in time. For me, it's more or less break even if price action does not break out of the 1886.50. And so what do I mean by that here? We want to be securing this position, and we are going to be moving our stop loss to the entry point here. I'm not excited about the 600 pips at this point in time, because we could have selling pressure resume again, take us out of this current position. But if you are a scalper, well, it might excite you. But if you are not, you're a long-term trader like me, I would suggest you move your stop loss to somewhere around the entry point, and let's wait out and see how price action will be reacting to the $1,886.50 level, which has been our new resistance point in the last 24 hours. So if a breakout of the 1886.50 level happens, then we shall be looking out for another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. Then we can move our stop loss again further to the upside, probably the $1,882 level, after a breakout of this current structure happens. So for me on the XAUUSD, I remain bullish for today, and I look forward to see price action break out of the 1886 0.50 level. And for those who had missed out on this opportunity right here during these early hours of today, well, just remain patient, wait out for the breakout of the structure to add to join that rally to the upside. And if you're already in this trade, you want to be adding more position at the breakout of that structure. Now, talking about selling the XAUUSD at this current point, I don't think selling for me will be most appropriate unless price action breaks down the 1,875 significantly well. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is I want to see an engulfing bearish candle break down the structure, then selling pressure below this level to give me a good confirmation that sellers are very strong in this market. But if that does not happen and price continue to trade above the $1,875 level here, I will definitely still hold on to a bullish bias on the XAUUSD. If you have any questions on the XAUUSD, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section. I will be checking it from time to time. Then I will be running through the last pair for today. And the last pair we are going to be looking at today is the USDJPY. And in fact, the USDJPY is also having the same situation with what we saw on the XAUUSD, as price action has been caught within a consolidation phase here in the last 48 hours. And that is between the 131.600 level, which has been serving as a resistance point for the last 2 days now, and then the support level at the 130.600. And you know, from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a flat channel like this, all we want to be doing is to remain patient to see, look out for signals which will likely come in the form of a breakout of the channel to give us an opportunity to buy, or a breakdown of the channel to give us an opportunity to sell. And if you remember, on Tuesday here, we sold the USDJPY at the breakdown of the 131.600. Then we had another position right here at the 131.350 level as price action dropped further to the downside. But we were taken out of the position during the New York session yesterday as price action came into the entry point. Now, one thing about this structure is this. You could have sold at the 131.600 level here, but for me it doesn't seem most appropriate, and this is because of the buy pressure I have been noticing around this area in the last 2 days now. So because of this, I'm very cautious with this current structure, as if it so happens now that we have a breakdown of the 131.00 level, a level which a zone which is strong for selling pressure in the past. Let me quickly show you how important that level is for selling pressure on our 4 hours time frame before I jump back into the current structure, so that you can be on the same page with me here. So on the 4 hours time frame here, this you can see things more clearly here on the 4 hours time frame. If we go to as far back as December last year, we saw how the 131 level had been a strong selling niche, though it was initially a buy zone. Remember, as you can see, we saw demand zone here, which lasted about a month before we saw the breakdown happened last month here. And since price action broke down the 131 level, we have been witnessing selling pressure, negating all attempts by the buyers from that level. And in fact, we have a supply zone identified here to confirm how strong the sellers were. But at the beginning of this week, we saw a significant breakout of the supply zone, which was a beautiful signal that we might be going bullish on this one. But one thing that happened afterward was that price action later broke back down below the supply zone at this point, and this is what makes it a very complicated structure at this particular point in time. And since price action is trading below the supply zone, it will be more reasonable to be thinking of selling the USDJPY at this point, because buying within this area for me doesn't make any sense unless we have price climb back up above the 131.00 level. Then I could be looking out for buying opportunity. But as soon as price has broken down the 131 level here, I will definitely be thinking of selling. So because of this current situation that we have here right now, I will be scaling back down to the 1 hour time frame, where I want us to be looking at ways at which we could take advantage of a selling opportunity. I think I lost connection here. I'm so sorry, I just lost connection and I'm trying to connect back, but it appears that pins are not working out as expected here. So let me look at this for the next few seconds and see if this is going to work out, or I call it a day at this point. It's so unfortunate. Okay, I give it more seconds. All right. So it appears the network is not coming up. So on the USDJPY, let me just round up for those who are on my YouTube channel, so that I can have an idea of what my expectations are. So for the USDJPY, I'm not looking to buy the USDJPY as long as price remain below the 131.00 level. So looking out for selling opportunities now, since we have an engulfing candle here on the 4 hours time frame that has broken down the 131.00 level. I will be looking forward to price action doing some retest of the 131.00 level. On my lower time frame, look out for selling pressure below that structure to sell the USDJPY, and if a further breakdown of the 130.600 level happens, I will definitely be adding more position to my existing trade. And for those who want to follow up with me, you can join me on my TradingView platform at Dark Sherry, so that you can be part of the my follow-up details as I update on the comment section from time to time. So thank you very much for being around. I really appreciate every single moment with you. I will not be able to do a recap because my network is out here. I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow. And on that note, I wish you best of luck during the New York session today. Do have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.